Let's talk about Formative today. Formative is one of my favorite products for one-to-one learning, and I found it to be especially handy for e-learning. In my opinion, what's unique about Formative is that you can structure an entire lesson within one formative. So think of formatives like an assignment. If you structure it right, you can have that mini lesson be a video embedded in the assignment. You can have brainstorming through the kids writing on a whiteboard or even speaking, brainstorming verbally their answers onto the formative. You can have multiple choice, matching, everything embedded right in one assignment. So I think that makes it really easy. The other thing that formative allows you to do is take existing work that's maybe paper-based and scan it in and make it interactive. So that's one of the big reasons that I ended up choosing Formative was because of that functionality. I thought it'd be a great way to ease into one-to-one learning. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of Formative. If you're familiar with it, this will show you how to use a bit more features. If you're not familiar with it, this will hopefully guide you a little bit more before you jump in head first. This is the main screen when you open Formative. So to log into Formative, you can log in with Gmail, you can log in with Clever, or you can even log in with Microsoft. And you can also log in the old way with username and password. We do Google, so that's how you will log in, is through the Google link. So this will be the main screen that pops up. This shows all the formatives that you have assigned and what the results were. So if you haven't given the formative yet, obviously you'll have no results. This is the folder feature, which is a newer feature. So instead of just having a big long list of formatives, now I'm able to put them in folders. So I made a folder earlier this year on citing sources, and you can see that folder right there. So you make folders by clicking here. I would think it would make sense to match the folders up with your topics in Google Classroom. So for each topic in Google Classroom, you'd have a folder in Formative. So this is the main panel when you open up. We'll come back to this panel after I go through the rest, but this will show you your classes across the top and your formatives across the side. Your classes import straight from Google Classroom or Clever, or you can manually create a class or synced with my Google Classroom. So that's where these come from, is from the Google Classrooms that I use. To see a little bit more control here, if you tab the arrow down, you can see who's in your Google Classroom. And this will tell you when the last time they saw them informative was. So this can give you a little bit of an insight as to how often your students are using the program, or if they are even, able to access it or what's going on. You can also rename students. A student is silly, puts their name in something crazy, no big deal. You can fix the name. If you come over here to add students, you can see that you can resync with Google Classroom. So maybe you got some new students or it's a new semester. You can put this code up on the board, have them all join with the code, easy. Or again, you can manually add students. So we see the different ways you can add students into your classroom. If you look down here, you see some more features. If I select a student, I have the options of resetting their password, which if you use a Google or Clever Sync, you would not have to do. I can move them. So maybe they move sections and I can move them to a different class, or I can remove them. So that's super helpful. If I click on the classroom, I notice I have options down here. I can edit the class. I can add a co-teacher to the class. I can clone the class. I can lock the class. And I can sync it back with Google, or I can archive it. So the archive is very similar to Google Classroom. It's an option. But this is the one I think is handy, the one that's standards and tags. So for each question, you would tag your standard in it. The standards are already preloaded, so you can really get this running view of how your students are doing in each standard across all the formatives you assign. This is a great self-tool too, to make sure that you're hitting all the standards as much as you should be. I know we all probably have standards we like more than others or that are more fun to do, and this will be that visual if you have kind of neglected a standard over the course of the year. So you could export this. This is great data to show a parent in a conference. Lots of good. I think that the standards and tags tracker to me is one of the coolest features. Then we come to library. You can search formatives from everybody. I mean, anyone has the ability to add a formative to the library. What I really love about Formative is not only do you have a library open to everyone, you also have the option of just adding something to your school library or your district library, and you can search those. When you see one that you like this one, this is a bundle for researching that we made earlier this year, and it has 8 formatives in it. I can expand and look at the 8 ones in here. And if I see one I like, here's another bundle for math. I can add all formatives to my list. And now these are my formatives. And what I mean by that is that any edits I make to this formative is not going to affect the teacher who created it. It's not going to affect her at all. So I can change this however I want to. I can edit it however I want to, and it's not going to mess up the original formative. It becomes yours. So I really like that ability to super customize. And so we see here we have a multiple choice question. You mark the right answer. Don't forget to do that. You can have a show your work option, which I think is great for math. It'll provide them a little whiteboard that they have to show their work on. And then, of course, you can tag the standards. Every standard is in here. I'm so impressed with their standards list. They have multiple countries, states, and they don't leave anything out from related arts to foreign languages. It's all here. So you just find your standards that you're working from, you add them, and then you're able to search the standard and tag each question. So that's where that tracker comes into play. It's a little bit of work to tag all your standards, but it will pay off in the end, especially considering you can reuse the same formatives year after year. So this is the library, and of course I use filters to search for my school and district, but you can also use the filters to search for grade and topic, right? You find a formative you like, and you just add it to your collection, and then you can edit it from there. Over here on the side, you get a nice little preview of the formative. You can decide if it's something that you like. So here's a great one that has embedded videos. So this is creating formatives. And then the admin panel, you'll only need if you're a school admin, but this is where you'll add teachers. You do need to add teacher accounts, and you will manage the teacher accounts through admin. So let's pop back over to the formatives we have. So now we see I have 2 folders. I have math properties and I have citing sources. We'll go into the citing sources one. So again, you can see the different options for short answer, and then I can assign it right here. Now I've already activated sign in as guest, right? We have guest students activated. I do this all the time as default, just in case someone's account's not working right, or they have messed something up with their Google, or their Chromebook is broken, they have a loaner, whatever. New student doesn't have their account yet. If you have the option of guest student selected, you'll always have this code that will allow them to take the test. I also use this for younger kids in grades 1st grade and 2nd grade. You know, sometimes the teachers will use these to give alternative spelling assessments or social studies assessments, and we don't have to worry about them logging in. They can just use the code and join as a guest. So then you pick what class you want to assign, and I can do assign only, or look at that, assign and post to Google. And if your classroom's linked up, it will link right into your Google Classroom, which is amazing. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to schedule the post for later, then just do assign only, and then copy this code into Google Classroom as a scheduled post. Either way, super easy. All right, so that is working from a formative that you didn't create. But if you did want to make your own formative, you just go to new formative. And this is all you'll see at first, which is kind of like, what? But it's really simplified, and that's what I like about formative. So you click on the plus, and we see that we have really 2 options, content and question, okay? So content are extras that go with the question. You may not need content. You may just need questions. But you are able to add content, and you can add content in the form of audio, in the form of embedding, in the form of an image, a text block, a video, or a whiteboard. And you can use more than one content. You could do an audio and a whiteboard. Listen to this and take notes. You can also upload your own content like a PDF or a Google Doc. And this allows the students to see that page or that content, but then allows them to answer it electronically through a ton of options. So this is the content for your questions. So audio, we are, obviously Mandarin's really important. So that's why I chose this, is the ability for students to hear questions in a different language and to respond to questions in a different language. That's a very important skill they need to practice all year. But there's applications for this across all content areas. I mean, music, you can use that audio response for singing scales. You could use it in theater for reciting a little bit of dialogue. I mean, the options are just endless. So when you add a question, you have your content and then you add your question. You have all these different question types. They can speak their response, they can categorize, they can write an essay, they can graph, match, multiple choice, multiple selection, numeric, resequence, short answer, show your work, true or false. You could also grab a single question from the bank. Instead of just a whole formative, you can search for a single question. So I mean, it's as simple as that to build. You just pick what you want to do and you just begin building it. Right? So I have a question, I'm going to have them take notes on a whiteboard, and then I'm going to have them do a resequence, right? Bam. Notice I only put one number because I put two contents that go with this question. So it's a very smart program and it makes it super easy. You can choose to allow partial credit. You can choose to show your work on any question. You can tag standards, and I recommend doing all of that. You can also change the point value right here. Very tiny, but you can change the point value of that question. So I'm going to pop over to one of our Mandarin formatives just because I think it's so cool. So this teacher took a Mandarin workbook and they made it into an interactive formative. So they didn't have to make photocopies of this, waste paper. They just took a picture and made questions. I do recommend, if you take a picture, to use a cam scanner within your phone. For iPhones, they're built into the note section, and almost every smartphone you can find an app that will document scan for you to get a nice clean image. But all you basically do on the document is you attach bubbles, right? You attach questions and you click where you want it to go, and then you make it interactive. So number one goes with this part. So I would read the question and I would add the answer. So if you had a normal worksheet that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, obviously you just pop your bubbles over the existing numbers. But this gives a lot of flexibility. If there's a question you don't like on an old worksheet, then just skip it. Don't put a bubble by it. So the kids learn really quickly to click the bubbles and go to the question. So we can see how easy that is here. We assign it again. I have it assigned to a classroom and assigned to guest students. Again, I always do guest students. And then we can view responses. So I had one student try it and they missed every question. Oh no, that's not very good. So you can see that here. So we are going to talk about this panel a little bit more, and then I'll quickly show you a student side, and then that will be that. So I'm going to scroll on here to a formative that I have a lot of answers on. So whenever you open the formative, I've already assigned this. I want to view responses. I'm going to go ahead and hide names, and it automatically defaults to this panel. I wish it defaulted to totals, but we can click totals. So this is where I can see how everyone's done. And more importantly, it's where I can see how everyone is doing. This actually populates in real time. So for e-learning, that is really helpful. I can assign it in Google Meet to my class, send out the code to them, and then I can watch them. I can split my screen and watch them in Google Meet and watch them doing their formative. I can watch the answers come in live, right? Oh, wow, these people are not doing so great. I can create a new Google Meet. I can send them a message, have them pop in there, and I can give them some remediation because they're missing a lot. In real life setting, when we're not e-learning anymore, those would be the students I would call to my desk really quickly. Hey guys, come up here for a second. And I would go over and I'd find those misconceptions. So this populates live. As students miss questions, the question will turn red. As they get them right, it'll turn green. And then it gives you the overall color for each number. So I can see right here where I have a few students that have misconceptions. Ooh, this one's really bad. I got, it's red. So this gives you all that data in one panel. I can look at individual questions. So I can see, okay, a lot of people are missing number 2. What wrong answer are they picking? And then I can see the wrong answer that is most commonly picked. So that covers, most of this here for you guys. You have some basic settings here. If you look at plan, that will tell you what your plan is for your school. The settings, I don't really think it's anything major. Attach your standard sets here. Oh yeah, I'm glad I forgot about that. You can set your score thresholds. So this lets you know what green actually means. Maybe for a more advanced class, you want to up it, or maybe you want to up it as the year goes along. You can set your default point value. And then you can decide what happens after submission, after we return the scores. Do you want to show answers, or do you want to show the scores, or all the different things like that? So you can set those here. All right, we'll just pop over to a student account real quick. So the website is actually goformative.com. So I have my student account here, and this student is linked with Gmail, so there's no signing in. I just wanted you to see what a submitted assignment looked like on the student end. So they did this formative, and they click on it after they've submitted it, and we get this big red box saying this is no longer editable, but I can go back and I can see what my answers were. Now, if you select to show correct answers, the correct answers will show up here, or maybe you assign it to them again and let them try it again. If me as a student, if I wanted to join a class, I could just join with that class code right here. Or if I just wanted to join an assignment, okay, maybe I don't need to join a whole class, I just need to join a certain assignment, then I can enter that code right there. So very simplified. And again, the students have the ability to see their standards, so they can see how they are performing across the board and across standards. I really love it when we can give data for the students to understand and to see. So that's my overview of Formative. I hope it helps. And as always, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.